Hello everybody and welcome back to Operation Logistics, where we are currently in a position where we need to decide what we want to implement next. We, in the last episode, wrote up this little bit here, telling exactly what's going on with this game and what we're trying to achieve. And in this episode, we need to figure out how we want to work towards that. This is where we are right now with our overworld map, and that's okay. I do want to make a few adjustments, though, to our overworld map, and we're not going to do that in code just now. I do want to up this to be 100 by 100, so 1,000 tiles, no, 10,000 tiles in total. Height seeds will also be 100, and then I'm going to change our height levels to be back down to 5, and our height per level, I'm going to go down to 0.1. I just want to see how that feels. Let's see here. Okay, so first off, we're struggling to run this. That's not a huge surprise, considering that there's 10,000 hexes here. Okay. I feel like 0.1 height difference isn't enough. 0.25. And let's try down to, say, 80 by 80. Just twice as big as the 40 by 40. I mean, we're still struggling a bit. 20 FPS. Now, a huge part of the problem here is you notice that we have 96,000 batches. We can do something about that. So actually, I'm going to go back to 100 for the map size. And let's go ahead and go into our prefabs and just mark the base hex prefab as static. And now it should statically batch, theoretically. Okay, it didn't statically batch. Okay, let's check here. Make sure that it's batching these over here. They're marked as static? Yep, okay, so why are we not batching? Because the problem here is we've got like 150,000 batches. That's the core issue. We need to be batching these, but it is currently not wanting to batch. That's okay, I just want to check and make sure. Okay, yep. Excellent. We can put it in a different layer. I just want to make sure batching static is checked. Okay, I'm not entirely certain why it's refusing to batch, but whatever. I guess I can Google that one. Let's find out here. Unity, static not batching. Yep, draw call batching. How to see why your draw calls are not batched. Yeah, that's what I want to see. I forgot that they have the window frame debugger menu is what it is. Okay, so where is it? General? Frame debugger. Where are we? Analysis? Yeah, frame debugger. That's what we want. Okay, so let's go ahead and run that. And with the frame debugger, let's enable it. Okay. So, why were we not batched here? Let's see here. Camera.render. Blah, blah, blah. Draw a bunch of meshes. Why are these meshes not being batched, though? So we need to... Hang on a moment. Why isn't this telling us anything? There should be information in here. What did you do, Unity? I want to know why this isn't batched. But it's just telling us what the event is. Which is kind of exciting. Yeah? Okay, that's not helpful. Analysis. frame debugger. Enable. There we go. Now it's showing up. Why this draw call can't be batched with the previous one? Objects have different materials. That's interesting. Ah, the material doesn't have GPU instancing enabled. Gotcha. So we need to go into our materials here, and we need to enable GPU instancing for all of these materials. There we go. That should batch our calls much more efficiently. Yeah, look at that. 176 batches. So we are now running at about the same FPS, actually. Our CPU thread is still extremely high, but our number of batches is much, much lower. Well, we are running at better FPS, but still not great FPS. So let's pop open, and this is a little premature to be doing optimization like this at this point, but I just want to get it back up to running at 60, at least on my computer. So let's pop open the profiler here, and let's just take a quick look at what is causing our CPU thread to be so high. So, right around in here, we are looking at camera.render taking 24 milliseconds, which is a little high. It's primarily editor overhead, which is a little strange. Interesting. Drawing is taking 23 milliseconds. Render opaque geometry. Render forward opaque. Interesting. Let's check a different frame here. Render shadow map, blah blah blah. Yeah, okay. I guess that's interesting. Well, we can go into edit project settings, player, and we can actually not in the player. We can do it in the camera, I think. Rendering path. Let's go to deferred rendering, and let's not do MSAA. We can always put in post-processing anti-aliasing. Okay, so we still have a very, very large CPU main thread. Do we have a component on these hexes that is maybe causing that? Statically batched and uses an instanced shader at the same time. That's interesting. Consider disabling static batching if you want it to be instanced. Okay. Well, we do want the GPU instancing, so yeah, that's all fine. Anyway, we can come back to that later. It's too early to be doing any optimization. So let's go ahead and consider what we want to do next. Well, we are already running a lot of triangles at any given time. There is no doubt about that. So we need to be kind of doing our... We need to be considering how we want to do the multi-resolution zooming. And realistically, I think we need to be able to select a hex for that to happen. Now, there isn't really a hexagon selection... a hexagon collider. But what we can do is we can pull out a base hex here. And come on... Oh, nope. Don't break the prefab. Come on over to the... No. In the scene view. There we go. And we can see that this is roughly a cylindrical shape, yeah? So we can not have ourselves a mesh collider, because a mesh collider would definitely... Here, let me just show you. A mesh collider here, if we mark convex, will do this. And this will be the most accurate collider that we can get. However, it's also the slowest collider that we can get, and I didn't apply this. So if I apply it and put this in, that'll add a lot of overhead. Now, it would probably be okay, but I want to be a little more efficient right now. So let's not use a mesh collider for the time being, and instead, let's use a cylinder, or rather not a cylinder, a capsule collider. Because this is essentially a capsule shape. Yeah? So we should be able to do this. Let's have the radius be 1. And the height, oh my. We want to have this be on the z-axis. There we go. And we'll have the height be, I don't know, maybe about 5. And we'll see how that works. Radius of 1, center being here is probably fine. Okay, let's go ahead and apply that. And now, actually, let's keep that base hex up here, because we'll need to add ourselves a script here. So let's create a C# script, and I'm going to call this base hex. Yep, go ahead and reload it. That is fine. Okay, so we absolutely do not want the overhead of an update in this. We don't want to be running an update every frame on these base hexes. However, we can do something along the lines of this on mouse enter. So when the mouse enters the collider, let's have it do something. So when the mouse enters, actually let's have ourselves a public vector3, and actually this can be private vector3 or rig pose, original position. So let's have that there, and then in the void start, let's say transform.position, and actually we need to be on this side at this point, rig pose equals transform.position. So we'll just store our original position when the hex is created. Then on mouse enter, we want to, and I don't need this to be pretty right now. So let's go ahead and say, let's do a public vector3, and we'll call this, I don't know, boost equals new vector3. No. There we go. New vector3, 0, 0.5, 0. This isn't going to stay. I just want this to be here so that we can see that this is working and we can kind of feel out how the capsule collider is fitting. I think we're going to have a few issues with it. So let's go ahead and see how this works. We may end up going to the mesh collider and seeing how exactly that works, but for right now, this is what we're going to do. So transform.position plus equals boost, and then public void on mouse exit, and we're going to say transform.position equals orig pose. So when we mouse over it, it should pop up a little bit, and we should be able to see which one we have our mouse over. It's not going to be animated, it's just going to instantly pop up. But we need to go ahead and add the base hex script here. And in fact, we may have to add it to the one that the collider is actually on. I don't know that for sure. We'll find out. Let's see here. Yeah, I think we need to add it to the one the collider is actually on. So I'm going to remove that from there, and we're just going to put the base hex script in here for right now. And once we mouse over one, we should see it pop up. Or, you know, not at all. Oh. I know what the problem is. We never applied the prefab. There we go. Let's turn off this guy. It was working for this guy, but let's turn him off. And now it should work. Yeah, look at that. So we can now mouse over a hex, but you can see it's not amazingly accurate because of the capsule collider. So for the time being, let's go back into our base hex here and disable the capsule collider and re-enable the mesh collider. Just because I want to make sure that this is all working, and then we apply that, disable the base hex, and let's see how this works. You can see that this is now much, much more accurate. Excellent. Okay, for the time being, I'm going to bring the width and height back down to about 50 by 50. There we go. Now it runs much, much more smoothly. So yeah, you can see that we are now actually moving the hex as we have our mouse over it, and we now know which hex we have our mouse over-ish. It's not pretty, but it gets the job done, and it proves that we have the information that we need. Okay, so what does that actually do for us? Well, it allows us to select a hex. The other thing that we could theoretically be doing, because what I'm thinking right now is that we'd have to select a particular hex to zoom in on it. And that may or may not be accurate. But I think that would be okay. So, the next thing that we need to do is we need to have 2 more layers of hexes, yeah? So how many hexes actually fit in one of these hexes if it's 1/10 the size? That's the question at this point. And then the next question is, do we want to manually have those hexes there, or do we want to have them automatically spawn? I think the answer is we want to have them manually there, but we don't want them to be there all the time, if that makes any sense. So, we need to determine what our hex offset would be, and I believe that would be just 1/10, so 0.0866. So let's go ahead and duplicate ourselves. We'll call this the world hex at this point. And then within the world hex, I'm going to duplicate it. And this is going to be parented to the world hex. And we're going to call this... we'll call this map hex. Okay. And then we'll set the scale to 0.1, 0.1, 0.1. And then we should probably set the height up a little bit, and I think 0.1 is the correct altitude there, which apparently Z is up in this local space. So 0.1 is way too much. That is way too much. 0.01. That looks more like it. Okay, so for these, we definitely want the boost to be a wee bit lower. Probably more along the lines of 0.1. That's probably still way too much. But here's one map hex. Let's go ahead and go into our snap settings. And we will snap all axes. Hang on. We will snap the Z-axis to 0.01. The Y-axis would be... what would that be? 1.5 times 0.1? Something like that. And 0.866 times 0.1? Something like that. Okay. We don't want to actually snap those right now, but okay, let's get ourselves another hex here. Oh my, it's not snapping on the Y-axis, or rather the Z-axis. Oh boy. Local space. Local space. Okay, let's go into local. That's exciting too. Let's stay in global space, I guess. And we need to determine where exactly this hex needs to go, since we're manually placing these. And it looks to me like it needs to go right about here-ish. Right about here-ish. 0.175? Nope. 0.174? I bet I know what it is. 1732. Is that correct? I think that's bang on correct. Ish. Let's go into orthographic mode here and zoom in on this. We're gonna have some nasty banding, but that's okay. So we need to change our Z position at this point, I believe. Which is, of course, this one, theoretically. Oh, that's exciting. Yeah, our local position is just kind of wacky right now because we are rotated 30 degrees in the world hex, let's go ahead and not be rotated 30 degrees here, and instead be rotated 30 degrees out here. I mean, I don't like doing that, because we're instantiating quaternion.identity. So yeah, that's a bad idea, actually. So let's have it be rotated 30 degrees here. That's fine. Okay, so 0.1732 is, I believe, in local space, anyway, is the correct distance on the x-axis. So then we definitely need to figure out what it is here. And I think in this case, it should just be 0. Because we're going this direction. Yeah, that is correct. So let's go into our snap settings and say for x, it is negative, or rather it is 0.1732. And for our y, we'll leave that where it's at right now. But let's go ahead and reduplicate this and place it there. And actually, I want to check to make sure. Yeah, see. So 0.866 is the halfway point for 1732. So let's go ahead and do that. And we'll just have to know that we need 2, because we need to move it right there. So yeah, this is now perfect. Excellent. So we can then just go ahead and place all of these hexes. Like so. And then you can see that we can also just very easily position it for a new row. Excellent. Okay, so how many hexes are we going to have here? That's the question. Well, this one is going outside, so I think that this one will not exist. And then we'll just go ahead and have these up through here. This one I think is going to be outside. Yes, it is. So it's outside of this border, so we're just going to not have it. Okay, so there we go. And we just need to tessellate this whole thing. Like I said, I'm just going to do these manually, at least for now. That one is exactly on the border, so that one will not happen. Same with that one. That one is exactly on the border as well, so we will not have that one there. These will only be internal hexes. Okay. We'll have one there. One there. One there. One there. And one there. And you can see that we're not perfectly tessellated here, but that's fine. Because you can't perfectly tessellate hexes inside of a hex. But we'll just go through and get all of these done. Almost done with the border. Well, we're getting there with the border anyway. Now, we could automate this to some degree, but I think that it'll be... I mean, it's kind of 6 one way, half dozen the other with how much work it'll be probably. It's only going to ever be done once, yeah? We're not going to be generating more tiles. So I think that this is fine. Well, there's our border done. And then we just need to get ourselves all of our hexes interior. There we go. Now this is going to drastically increase our draw calls. So we're going to need to make sure to have a significant portion of our hexes have these turned off. In fact, they will be off by default. So let's go ahead and just fill these in. There we go. And then we'll turn them off by default. And then we'll only turn them on at this point when the hex is selected. And then we'll move the camera to zoom in on that particular hex. So we'll need one here. There we go. And then we're going to need a way for them to find their neighbors and things like that. That's not a particularly difficult thing to do, though. So we'll just have that filled in. Is that all of them? I believe that might be all of them. Let's just do this, and we'll watch it fill in. Make sure that... No. Stay up here. There you go. Okay, and we'll just watch it fill in and make sure that we get every spot. Okay. Yep, that looks good. Yeah, excellent. So there are a total of, what, 73 hexes in there? Something like that? But we're going to have them be disabled. And we'll go ahead and apply that. Okay, so the question now becomes, do we want it to be as dense inside of the other ones? And the answer is yes, but we're probably going to have particular locations for that. However, I think that's probably something for the next episode. I'm going to leave these on for a real quick test here. This is going to go horribly, okay? This is probably going to explode something. Let's see what we've got. Oh boy. I'm glad I saved. This is taking forever. Like I said, this is probably going to go horribly. Okay. Oh my. Look at that frame rate. 1.2 FPS. Aw, yeah. So, a couple of things. We can't zoom in close enough to really look at the hexes internally. But that's okay. I think overall, this is a great start. In the next episode, we'll work on optimizing this a little bit, getting the hexes able to look at the actual hexes internally. We'll be able to select the hex, have the camera zoom to it, and then enable the internal hexes. However, that is something for the next episode. So I'm going to go ahead and delete the base hex out of here since we're relatively done-ish with that. And with that, I will see you all next time.